guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 13, and I've got the cage match for you. We're back after a couple of week hiatus. Look, guys, last week was Thanksgiving week, and it's really hard to get people to come on a Wednesday when they're traveling to go see their friends and family for Thanksgiving. So, like, you got to give me a little bit of slack in terms of, like, holiday week. That's how it works. But this week, I've got Mike Leone, Leone, 2 hats, 1 mic from establishthерun.com. The spreadsheet wizard himself is here. He said that he's going to dominate me in the cage match. We're going to find out. It's an interesting week, 12 games on the slate. If you've played head-to-heads on Draftkings before, you know that you're going to end up with a lot of overlap. Typically, those games, especially this year on the chalkier weeks, end up being like a 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, but you have a lot of overlap. 6, 7, 8 spots in your lineup are about the same as everybody else. Less fun. What we're going to do is we're going to draft these two teams against one another, and if he picks somebody, I can't have him. I pick somebody, he can't have him. Using the salaries on DraftKings, we're playing for $300 that is going to be donated to the winner's charity. So hopefully I can bring some more money home for our charity fundraiser here. We're going to talk about both charities. We're going to talk about everything that there is on this slate from kind of a cash game perspective, even though we do tend to play mostly high stakes GA. So drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Hey, Mike, how's it going, man?
It's going well, How are you, Smizz?
I can't complain, man. Just bopping along with the season, trying to figure things out. You said that your season, for both of us, it's been kind of a weird season at high stakes. But like, how has everything else been going daily fantasy wise? Our basketball season has started. You guys over at ETR do a great job with basketball as well as football. So how's NBA season started for you?
Yeah, pretty good. Those guys are crushing on props. I honestly don't do too much with NBA anymore. Like, I'm on the back end doing projections and stuff, but as far as day-to-day stuff, I'm not involved with that. Drew's hired a few guys to help him out, and they're just on it 24/7. They're crushing it. So yeah, I'm really in the NFL grind, both season long and DFS and props as well. Props has gotten huge, and we had, I think, our second best props week of the week. So that was nice, a little nice consolation when you don't have the DFS week that you quite want.
Awesome. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, where they can find your work, their projections at ETR, everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at 2 hats, 1 mic on Twitter. Smizz was part of that Twitter handle being created, if I recall correctly.
I was there.
He was there. Me, him, and Kitchen, I believe, that guy brought together. Big, follow me there. All my content and stuff's on Establish the Run. I do the weekly subscriber GPP show on Saturdays with Drew Dinkmeyer. I also have a free podcast, Establish the Edge, where I try to pump out a couple episodes a week. One's usually focused around underperforming running backs and wide receivers that we can target based on their workloads. And another is an initial look at what game stacks we're looking at for DFS, looking at the GPP game score stuff that was developed by Adam Roush and myself.
Awesome. Love to see it. We got the Welly Maker 6.0, Drew Dinkmeyer, your long-term partner in the daily fantasy streets, is raising money for charitywater.com. That's who you are playing for. If you win, I will donate $300 to them. I am playing, as always, for No Kid Hungry, providing school, breakfast, lunches, as well as at-home care for food insecure kids all across America. Both of us have raised a ton of money this year. Love to see it. Would love to see it continue. There'll be links down below in the description. !charity in the chat if you wanted to donate to our fundraiser here today. And if I win, Mike will donate $300 to No Kid Hungry. Mike, you've chosen the first pick. Before you go, let me remind everybody that the Smizz Gang Listener League is posted. Go to smizzle.tv/links if you wanted to jump in that. It's the only way to find the link to that Listener League. $10 center, 3 max, 3,500 entrants in the best tournament on DraftKings, because there is absolutely 0 rake. So jump in the Smizz Gang Listener League today. It will get filled, and I'll shout out all the winners on the Fantasy Football channel on Monday on the recap video. So, Mike, it's on you.
All right. I am going to play a guy that I fudded last week because of weather. I got scared of the weather in that Jets-Chicago game and ended up playing Treylon Burks over Garrett Wilson, but I'm going to correct that this week. Go with Garrett Wilson against Minnesota. Salary took a hike, but we saw the play calling stuff with Mike White at quarterback, I think, just really elevates the floor of the Jets pass catchers. And sometimes the hardest part about DraftKings this season has been these, finding these appropriately priced mid-tier wide receivers. So I think that gives me some flexibility in the roster build.
Yeah, he's very strong. Just a really good player and getting a ton of volume at this point. So, like, let's scratch off that New England game, right? 8 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets. And Mike White had something like some ridiculous amount of like 95% of the balls he threw this week were catchable. He just needs to be competent. They have really good. Did you see the resurgence of Elijah Moore this week? He's alive. He lives. He lives and breathes and walks and runs routes and catches balls.
Yeah, the Mike White too, like their pass rate of expectation was pretty high last year with him. And I thought maybe that was fluky, but if you look at their stats from this past game, like overall, it's a little bit misleading because it poured the second half and they had a big lead and they ran a ton. But first half, they did come out throwing. And you mentioned the catchable balls. Like he's going to be a little bit shorter ADOT, but
yes,
that's fine for us. Full PPR site. We're happy with it.
So I got a couple of routes that I think I could go or should go. And I don't know which one is the optimal at this point, because I think that Wilson is a great pick. I have 2 picks coming to me, and then we go 1-1-1 the rest of the way. The first pick, I think, is an extremely obvious. I kind of have to go with the Sun God. Amon-Ra St. Brown is just going to be getting a ton of targets in a good offensive environment. One of the highest totaled games of the week, Detroit and Jacksonville. Neither team can really stop the other one. The only thing I have to worry about here is like Jamal Williams ending the day with like 5 inside the 5 carries on his 0 targets. But like Amon-Ra St. Brown between the 20s, and hopefully when they get close can cash in with a touchdown. I think we're going to see a run in from Amon-Ra St. Brown until week 18, where he gets one of those situations with maybe not 8+ catches in every game, but like 7 is kind of his catch floor. And we've seen that at least the last 3 weeks and 4 of the last 5 with 9, 7, 10, and 7. Still very much in cash game consideration at 7,100. As you said, the price did come back up. Feels like DraftKings listened to us in week 12 a little bit. To you specifically, just turn down the wide receiver pricing by 500 across the board would be awesome, and allowed us to make some better lineups. So like Amon-Ra St. Brown is the first one that I want to plug into this spot. I don't know that I need. There's so many running. There's a lot of running backs. Why? Yeah. There's just so many, like all the time. And they're all weirdly priced. Like none of them are this week. The running back pricing is the Larry David, like with him not being able to, well, maybe. And then like Josh Jacobs isn't practicing, and Christian McCaffrey's questionable. Who knows with Etienne's foot? All that stuff is kind of up in the air at this point. So I'm going to wait on running back. I'm going to find a value as well. I'm going to go with Nico Collins going up against Cleveland. Typically, we attack Cleveland on the ground, but Nico Collins, the last 3 weeks, 9 targets, 7 targets, 10 targets. I love the volume that's headed his way. High floor-ish. There's a couple of wide receivers right now that are under 4K, but they're like 3,800, 3,900. I like the floor of targets that I think are incoming with Nico Collins, and less variance with him. He could score a touchdown, which would just make the day immediately. But has a higher floor of targets than those guys that I think are only like 300-400 below him. So I'm going to lock in Nico Collins for a little bit of value here at home against Cleveland. Hopefully they're playing, they should be playing from behind. They play from behind like 92% of their snaps this year.
Yeah.
So
something absurd like that.
Yeah. They're going to be throwing in, the return of Deshaun Watson should make that offense in a revenge game. How much do we put on that revenge game against Houston for Watson this week? There's a lot of possible revenge there.
There is on both sides.
Yes.
For sure.
Back to you.
I like that. Yeah, the Amon-Ra pick was really strong.
Thank
that was
you.
kind of who I was debating on the first. I just ended up going with the cheaper salary guy. Amon-Ra is definitely a little bit safer. I think, man, this is tough.
It's a tougher week, like early. It may open up later because there's a lot of value running backs, like extreme value running backs, that make it tough for us to pick them on a Wednesday when we're recording this. That could be in play by the weekend. It would take some cojones to draft them on a Wednesday, though.
I'm going to take an opponent of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not going to be a running back because I don't know if the running back there is healthy, which makes it difficult.
Yep.
But I'm going to go Christian Kirk and kind of like stick with this mid-tier wide receiver route that I think has legitimate upside. We're basically in Coors Field, as Adam calls it, the Coors Field of the NFL.
And he's gotten so many targets. Like
very
targets
consistent.
the last 3 weeks, even though he didn't cash in last week. It was a random Zay Jones week.
Yeah, and he still had 9 targets. It was just a really horrific efficiency game. He only caught 4 for 46 in that game. But yeah, I want access to this game environment in some way. And again, just sticking with the mid-tier wide receiver. Now I got some flexibility to either stick like mega balanced with my lineup or go one stud, one dud somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely possible. I didn't put Kirk on your team. Now I did. All right, coming back to me. I said that running back is a little bit meh this week. There's a lot of question marks. But there's one guy who's not a question, and it's Austin Eckler.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of catches. And by a lot of catches, he's like the Ron Swanson of receiving running backs. Like, he said he wanted all of the bacon. He didn't think he wants a little bacon. He wants literally all the bacon that you have. He has 80 receptions on the year. The second highest receptions for a running back is 50, and that's Ramondre Stevenson. Receptions are worth like a ton. Each target is worth like 2.3 times as many expected fantasy points than each carry. I don't care that he doesn't carry the ball a lot. He does get enough usage to score a bunch of touchdowns and has the most ridiculous floor against a team that has been terrible at stopping like everything. So let me get some Austin Eckler here. At 8,500, I'm more than willing to pay up for him. So I've got super high floor with Eckler and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Nico Collins. He's like got the fourth most receptions in the league if he was a wide receiver, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And especially with the way the running back position has turned out, like the combination of those catches and the touchdown upside for him has just made him like, it doesn't really matter what the rush work looks like in between the 20s. It's all about the high value touches, which, you know, segueing into my pick is someone who isn't necessarily all about the high value touches, but I think he's too cheap this week. Mm-hmm. And he's gross running back. I'm going to go David Montgomery against the Packers. I think Montgomery at 6,200. It's a really good price for him with Herbert out. I think Fields might be out, which in a weird way I think is okay for Montgomery. I think it raises his pass catching floor a little bit and also guarantees him a bit more of the goal line work. But if Fields does play, you know, we're okay too. This first matchup between these two teams, you know, Green Bay just got stomped on the ground by Chicago, and Chicago stuck with the run despite playing from behind most of that game. So again, we're going really balanced. So give me some David Montgomery.
Yeah, it looks like you're staying in this mid-range. Something that you didn't know. You mentioned all of the fine print that I may not have known about before, you know, like coming into this cage match, but like there's some fine print that you don't know. I usually get like 60K in salary. So that's kind of how things work out for me in this cage match. My opponents never really know how I've gotten to the spots that I get to, but I'm gonna spend a little bit more here. I'm gonna go for Dalvin Cook up against the New York Jets. Love the volume of Dalvin Cook. Did not like the scoring last week with 9.6, 7.2K. I could get cheaper at running back, but I love the volume that he's seen in the passing game with 23 targets over the last 5 games and 5 or more targets in 4 of those 5 games. Dalvin Cook, a favorite to score in this one. Even if they are passing the ball more this year, everything kind of goes through their Justin Jefferson, their absolute alpha on the outside. But New York is really good on the outside with their 2 cornerbacks at shutting all that down. So another 25 opportunity game, 20 to 25 opportunities expected for me for Dalvin Cook this week. He has done great at turning long runs into touchdowns too, so some big splash ability on top of the really high volume, and I kind of like that spot for him at 7,200.
Yeah, you're spending a lot of salary early. I almost
it always confuses the every week. Somebody's like, "Where are you finding all of this salary?"
I know it makes me want to play defense here a little bit. See if I can like grab this cheap guy that you're looking for, knowing you can't take any more expensive guys.
I can take more expensive.
Don't you worry.
I got plenty of expensive guys.
There's one play that's like definitely like I'm gonna be a little bit guilty of fancy play syndrome if I do it. Okay. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
All right.
Okay. So you took Dalvin. All right. This is where I do feel a little bit stuck. Not gonna lie. All right. I'm going to stick balanced actually. This player has struggled a lot recently. And it's part of the reason why I wasn't on him, despite, you know, him looking like he was a fun rookie who had the role to begin the year, which is basically that Houston's so bad that he can get all the touches and still not perform. He hasn't even top 5 fantasy points in back-to-back weeks. Yet we're going to draft him in cash with all the players available to us. That's Dameon Pierce
Yeah.
Salary is down to $5,900, which is the cheapest it's been since week 4. Cleveland has been most susceptible on the ground, and Pierce actually has been more involved in the passing game in totality this season than I really expected him to be coming in. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, 5,900 for a guy that's like you said, like 8 fantasy points the last 2 weeks combined. They've kind of gone away from him a little bit, but like they have to utilize him. And Cleveland has been one of the 4 or 5 teams that we have been happily playing running backs against every single week in 2022. So Dameon Pierce, another value-ish running back for you. You've got that lovely. You guys have been doing this for a decade. We've been around a long time, Mike. We're long in the teeth in this industry. We're not the young kids in daily fantasy. Not that I was a young kid when I started anyway, but like since like the draft street days, you have always been about that. I'm not going to go stars and scrubs. I'm going to get all of these value guys in the mid range, and you're kind of drafting that way again this week. It's kind of who you are. I always tend to lean towards stars and scrubs when it's available.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup this week. Like you said, they altered the wide receiver price. I think the wide receiver pricing was adjusted more last week than this week, but it's enough this week that I think it just makes there's just more viable builds, which makes it more fun.
Okay, so I don't think I need to. I'm not going to do that. No, I'm talking myself out of the thing that I was going to do, and now I'm totally not going to do that thing. What I am going to do, God, I don't know if I can do that either. It would leave me, it would leave me in a bad spot. And like, I don't want to be in that spot. It's really a weird slate. The pricing is not super duper restrictive this week, but it's enough that like, I think when you're playing a cage match like this in cash, you're going to be fine, right? In cash, I really, really do believe that you're going to be just fine. But in a cage match situation where you take certain guys off field, like Garrett Wilson's a really good pick and Christian Kirk is a really good pick. I want to get exposure to that, to the high.
Were you rolling the dice here?
I think I have to. Like
he's the best value if he plays. I mean, it's like, that makes it pretty interesting.
There's a few. So like, no, there's a couple of guys that are really good values in this spot, but like I can't take the other guy. I can't do that. You know, I know who you're talking about. I'm going to take somebody else from that game though.
Okay.
I'm going to take Zay Jones.
Okay.
At 4,900. Right. Last 2 weeks, 24 targets. He could easily bounce back to this 5 target range. It's certainly a thing. I'm not chasing the points. I'm not chasing 145 yards. I'm chasing the role and the relationship. So there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. I think that it's going to turn into some sort of a track meet. You know what's insulting? The player that we're both kind of skirting around is Travis Etienne. What
are the cage match rules if your guy doesn't play?
So if you take somebody and he's out for the weekend, then you can swap that player out, you know, for the salary that you have remaining. So you can totally take Etienne and then swap out of him if you need to. He's expected to play. What we try to stay away from, it's more like the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. So like taking somebody that you know is out and then saying, oh, look, I'm going to take this out spot so I can make a decision later. Like we don't do that. But like if you pick a player and they're out, you can clearly switch because I'm not trying to make somebody play a man down.
So it's like playing Etienne within the spirit of the
like because they expect him to play, right? Like it's not
I mean,
like
he's expected to play.
They said that he's expected. I would say that you could do the same with like Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted to go that route, but I don't know how much it benefits you to take a, you know, what is he, 7,900 running back in this spot, but you know, he's very good. So I'm buying into this offense. I'm buying into, on both sides. I'm buying into Detroit. I'm buying into Jacksonville. I do want to talk about Etienne for just a second. You know what was like insulting? I think I ranted and yelled on my running back rankings video on the Fantasy Football channel. Etienne, since they traded Robinson, has not had any more than 5 targets. He's got like 3 catches max in most games and like 3 or less targets in every one. He was like the big thing in terms of profiling exactly as a running back that we would want on DraftKings because he gets so much work in the passing game and they won't throw him the ball. He leaves the game with a foot injury. Hasty immediately 5 catches. Screw you. Like, what are you doing to us?
Yeah, I played a lot of Etienne in DFS last week. It was mega painful because I got the exact ownership I thought I would get, which was like 4% at high stakes. And part of my thought process was there's a little bit like Tony Pollard earlier this year, like his pass catching week to week has been really bad, but obviously he had that massive pass catching day against the Vikings. where he just went nuclear. And I feel like Etienne's got that in him where like we know he can do it. Like just because they haven't done it doesn't mean we should, automatically assume he's not going to at some point at least have a game that's an aberration. Doesn't mean they're going to switch throwing him the ball a ton. But I'm not going to take him here though quite yet. Just trying to back into my salary stuff. I think I'm going to go quarterback here.
All right.
Which I know is a little weird onesie position. There's like, no matter who I take, there's someone easy for you to take. But we're going to go revenge game with Deshaun Watson at quarterback here.
So aside from any of the other off-field stuff, what do you think the Cleveland Browns offense, do you think that it's going to stay and remain the same that it was with Jacoby Brissett in terms of run pass mix, in terms of everything else? Like, what do you think is coming here with Deshaun Watson?
So I think we're going to see a slightly higher pass rate, relative to expectation. Obviously, this is a game where the pass rate's not expected to be that high, but I think it's going to be higher than it would be if it were to be Brissett. And I expect some of the touchdowns to just get flipped from, rushing touchdowns to passing touchdowns, or the team to score more in totality. They only have 12 passing touchdowns through 11 games. I think Jacoby Brissett's played really well, but Watson historically has a pretty strong TD rate. His last year in the league, he led the NFL at 8.9 yards per attempt, which is, pretty insane. So
that was the year that he had,
that was the last, I think that was the Fuller
that was
suspension
Fuller's PED year, right?
Yeah. I think that was the Fuller PED year.
So he was having a monster season, and like Deshaun Watson in games where Will Fuller plays has much better metrics than the games where Will Fuller did not play. I'm not saying that for right now. If Deshaun Watson wasn't in, would Nick Chubb be chalk this week?
So I don't think Watson should. I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think Nick Chubb would be chalk this week? I've retired Nick Chubb from the 5 under 5% video. I'm not allowed to mention him because he's always under 5%.
Well, I guess he ended up with a good game last week. He got the bonus there, or he got the touchdown in overtime and the bonus late. I feel like Nick Chubb just played the game. People play the game logs with him, basically.
Just whack-a-mole. Like if he had a good game, they play him. If he has a bad game, they don't.
And it's so volatile. I think with the matchup, people will still play him. But like Watson being there for Chubb shouldn't really be a bad thing. Like I know I said they'd be a little more pass heavy, but ultimately the offense should score more and be more efficient. Overall. Like
I just want to play running backs against Houston every single week.
Yeah, I don't think I think it would be weird to say, oh, I was going to play Nick Chubb if Brissett was in, but now Watson's in, I'm not going to play him. I think that's like a mistake. Like that doesn't make sense.
But I think if people are going to do it.
Yeah.
I agree with you that it's a mistake, but I also think that that's the way people are going to do it. Nick Chubb would be a great play, but Deshaun Watson, he's playing Houston. It's his first game back. He's going to throw for 7 touchdowns like that. I honestly think that there are a lot of people think like he's going to have 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. They're going to announce his presence with authority in this spot. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
I don't know. Well, people haven't been playing him to begin with, so I wouldn't be shocked if you were wrong. Wouldn't be shocked if you were right. Sorry,
he's retired. You don't see it, but like in my ring of honor around my studio in here, Nick Chubb is in the 5 under 5. Like every Saturday, I do a video where I try to pick like your flag plants on Established a Million. I record here's 5 guys that I think are going to be under 5% that have good tournament ceilings for us. And every week, Nick Chubb would be in that video, so I'm not allowed to use him anymore.
Yeah, I felt like the beginning of the year, people were playing him, and we thought he'd be sub 5%, and he wasn't. And now lately, it's just like auto lock, like sub 5%. And again, that's why I think they're game log chasing a little.
That could be right. I mean, the Houston matchup's right, but like we digress. It's not the focus of the show. It's not. But I thought it was an interesting conversation, and I really did want to have it. Thank you for indulging. I already have one piece of that game. I don't feel like I need another one. I feel like there's enough at tight end that I don't need to pick one. It's like I don't care about tight end. I don't need to pick a quarterback because I can pick that last because you already took one, which leaves me with, I think, a comfortable amount of money that I can then spend at running back or wide receiver. I've got a flex spot that I can kind of go to. There's a lot in this range as well. There's a lot of meat on the bone here. God, you took Montgomery, you took Kirk. I could try to block. Oh God, Road Cooper. Do I want to try and block you with Road Cooper in this spot and just like try and inflict pain, but like possibly
is it Road Cooper or Dome Cooper? I mean, who knows?
Oh man, yeah. That was a whole other thing. Like it made sense when it was in Dallas and it's like, okay, he's on turf and he's in a dome. And then when they go on the road to grass, he does bad. But now his home is on grass in a terrible weather spot, but he does better at home, like by twice as many points. He's averaging like 11 and a half in games that they play on the road versus 22 at home.
Maybe the dude just doesn't like to travel. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe he just goes out too much when they're on the road. Maybe he doesn't sleep well in hotel beds. I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I'm going to take a risk in this spot because the volume is it just fluctuates so much. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones. Very nice 6,900 in this spot. We know what they need to do, but we're not going to assume rational coaching, just throwing the ball 6 times every game. Just give him 20 plus opportunities every single game. Chicago is one of the worst defenses in the league. I want to attack them often and early. Very little chance of 100 yards rushing, I'm going to say, with Aaron Jones. I know he's gotten there a couple of times, and he got there quite bigly with 132 yards, 143 yards, 138 yards against Dallas and Buffalo. He had 143. But this is as soft a defense as you can get.
What did he put up against Chicago week 2?
Against Chicago in week 2, 132 on 15 carries. So he was a post-game player of the game. It was an island game, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was Sunday night.
Yeah. So give me Aaron Jones in this spot, not because he did it in week 2, but because Chicago already was an exploitable defense in one of the 4 or 5 that we stream against every single week with running back. That locks up my flex, but I feel comfortable with it. I have 3,700 remaining, 11,200 for a quarterback, tight end, and a DST. So I'm feeling happy that I can get the guys that I feel that I want or need, and I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to end up with a little correlation here. I'm going to take Njoku at tight end.
Yeah, he was somebody that I was thinking about, but I would have had to come off of Aaron Jones. I like Njoku a lot.
Yeah, he's been one of the more reliable week-to-week tight ends in fantasy all season. I mean, really since the first week of the season, he's pretty much there every week. The one really bad game against Buffalo. And like I said, I think we're going to see the pass touchdowns come up. So if you can give me similar volume to what he's been seeing with, a touch more TD upside, I'm in. There was like one other tight end around his price. I mean, there's a couple of other tight ends that are really pretty similar. One cheaper, one a little more expensive, but he was one of the main 2 I was looking at.
So when it comes to David, he was the guy I was going to take earlier. I said I didn't need to. Okay. So he was the one I was going to take earlier and said I didn't need to. He's just been really solid and has big splash ability at tight end, something that a lot of other tight ends don't have. I think he's probably the best tight end on the slate, but I couldn't get there with the build that I have spending the money that I've spent right now. I would have had to come down again off of Aaron Jones to make sure that I got there, but I didn't. I'm not going to take a quarterback. I have to take a defense in this spot. And it sucks because I don't know if I painted myself into a corner, but to get the other guys, there's only one defense that I can get, and it's the Tennessee Titans at 2,200. It's not great, Bob. Yeah. I don't love it, but it's the only way that I can make my lineup work. If you had taken the Titans, I would have had to do something massively different with the rest of my lineup, which would have pushed me off the 2 players that I want at quarterback and tight end. That would have hurt. That would have really hurt if you took them. So give me the Titans defense here at 2,200, leaving me with 4,500 per spot, but one of them is the tight end, and he's fun. So you got a wide receiver, a flex, and a DST.
Yeah. Man, I'm pretty torn. Exactly. Okay, I'm gonna take the flex running back.
All right.
That I've been looking at, and then I'll make my final decision.
I love how you do all of your picks like this is micro content. So you've got to keep people watching for the first 15 seconds before you reveal who the player is going to be.
I mean, I love that's what if I change my mind?
The last 4 weeks he's scored 15 fantasy points a game. He's seen 7 inside the 5 touches.
Kenneth Walker III. My boy, Gale Sayers. We have a running joke in Slack that he's Gale Sayers because Levitan's been mocking how much we've liked Kenneth Walker all season. Really exciting player. The Rams are such a disaster right now that there's just going to be so many rush attempts for Walker in a dome, big play upside. I was between him and Aaron Jones, really.
Yeah.
I think similar kind of
I was in that
really
range
high
as well.
Ceiling guys. So give me Walker.
So this must be Levitan must love this right now because Levitan, the king of preseason, right? And the Rams are fielding essentially second half preseason teams right now. So he's right in his element. This has got to be perfect for him. I've got a quarterback and a tight end. I'm going to go with the quarterback first. It should be obvious to our crowd. Look at this. See this little green 32nd right here next to the name? I kind of like that. Another dome game. Weather, not a problem. Over 72% completions in his last 3 games. Seems to be really coming on, averaging 18.6 Draftkings points per game. And this could be one where he gets over that expectation, over his projection this week because of the fantastic game environment. The highest total game of the week, tied at 51.5. Yeah. Unless that's changed since I wrote this down with Chiefs and Bengals. And Trevor Lawrence, give me sunshine at QB, and we'll see where we go.
I hope you enjoy all these Lawrence to Kirk touchdowns.
I'm going to hate you if that happens.
With Zay Jones doing nada.
Zay Jones going to have 74 targets this week, and I'm going to love every second of it.
How much salary do you have left? My box is covering it up.
I have 3,100.
3,100. Okay. My other tight end that no one's going to take is Freiermuth, is what I was looking at against Atlanta. I think, I think I'm going to, I'm between taking a really crappy defense and the wide receiver I want, or like a meh wide receiver and a, I think I got to go Keenan Allen in cash here. I'm going to go Keenan Allen. He's so good. Yeah, I was between, basically I had Devonta Smith and the Steelers versus Keenan Allen and a worse defense. I'm going to go Keenan Allen in the worst defense though.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really bad defense. Now you're going to have to hate that he gets like 7 targets and Austin Eckler gets 15 of them again this week.
I love that we have so much leverage.
There's a lot of challenge picks on these 2 games. So I might as well end it with another challenge pick.
Oh, baby.
Gronklin. Tyler Gronklin. Look, every tight end down here is somewhat thin, but he has actually played really well the last few weeks. I like the fact that they are moving to this Mike White-led offense. I think that they are going to pass the ball more effectively and more efficiently. And Tyler Gronklin, who has seen games where he has, gotten 10, 6 targets in games, 8, 9, 5 in games. I think that 3 is his floor of targets. I'm paying 3,100. If he gets me like 3 catches for 48 yards, like that's fine at 3,100. If he wanders into the painted area, he's a smash. He correlates for me a little bit with the Dalvin Cook play. I know it's not really a high scoring environment, but I like when we get into December, I like having these situations where I have players in domes, on turf, all those sorts of things leads to higher scoring outcomes. So that's how my lineup finishes. You have a defense to finish yours off.
Yeah, I did think about Zonovan Knight in that game, just assuming Michael Carter out.
Even if Michael Carter's in, Zonovan's going to get some move. He's going to get some run.
Yeah, with the Mike White target share to running back thing. I was close to doing that and building a little bit more studsy dudsy than I ended up doing. But yeah, I'll close it out with the Broncos defense, which, they
don't allow any touchdowns. Like they're not bad.
If the offense could do anything, the problem is they're just not in positions to feast on the quarterback because their own offense never scores.
Exactly. We end with a whimper. Gronklin and the Broncos defense.
Yeah.
But Deshaun Watson, Montgomery, Pierce, Wilson, Kirk, Allen, Njoku, Ken Chalker III, and the Broncos defense for Mike. I've got T-Law, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cooks, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Collins, Jones, Gronklin, Aaron Jones. Got the Jones boys. And the Titans defense. So a little more starsy, scrubsy for me. Mike, thank you for being here. If you guys want to go follow him, definitely go hit him up on Twitter and check out all the great products that they have at establishtheRun.com. Mike, appreciate you. Good luck this weekend. Look out for another video, guys, right there.
He's a legend.